Welcome to the Virtually Speaking podcast. My name is Pete Flecha, and joining me as always is my good friend, Mr. John Nicholson. John, how you doing, bud?
I'm hydrating up. I think I've reached peak caffeine for the day, and I need to, lower my blood pressure, calm it out, just spread things out, and just get a handle.
You're coffeeed up and ready, but
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you everything in moderation.
Yeah, I'm trying to change the vibe this afternoon.
Nice. Well, John, as you know, we're still talking about advanced services. We're doing this whole series. We've covered a couple of really cool ones so far. This one certainly is one I think that is going to be near and dear to a lot of our customers' hearts. It's called Cyber Compliance or Advanced Cyber Compliance, maybe more popular known as ACC. And we're not alone. We've got a couple of folks to help us with this conversation, starting with a good friend, Miss Belu de Arbelaiz. Belu, welcome back to Virtually Speaking.
Thanks, folks. Always great to be here. This time talking about a new advanced service that we GA'd last November. So hopefully we'll get to talk to you about all the great value that we're bringing to our VCF customers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, John's got questions for sure. So let's do it. But you are not alone. Also joining us is from product management, Adam Hawley. Adam, welcome back.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be here and talk about ACC. I've been dealing a lot with VCF level security and compliance, and now we've got an offering that's really focused in that space. So it's great to give everyone an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, quick overview of this of all of the advanced services up there on the top bar. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening, there are images in the show notes for sure. Let's start from the very top, sort of like, what is advanced cyber compliance, and what do we need to know about it, and how does this help customers? Maybe, Belu, you can kick us off.
Sure thing. So a little bit about why we build this, right? And why we believe that this is adding so much value to our platform, right? So cyber risk management and compliance have become kind of core to pretty much every organization's survival when it comes to these evolving regulatory requirements, also increasingly sophisticated cyber threats, right? And what we've seen is that many organizations today struggle manually integrating multiple components across different geographic regions with different regulations, right? So what we are looking to bring to our VCF customers with ACC is essentially a way for them to be able to automate, orchestrate, and get all of this increased visibility into the compliance and risk management state of their environment. So essentially, this complements the already built-in capabilities that exist in the core VCF platform, not just for security, but also for resilience and compliance management.
So this is interesting because I feel like compliance was something that people used to think of, okay, there's a couple of major ones to focus on. You've got your PCI DSS, you've got whatever the DOD has this week. And then something about cookies with Europe. You talk about this as changing. What are the regulatory environments that are pushing this, and what is different from, I think about early days of compliance, was a lot of people running around with checkboxes and clipboards. What at a high level are we seeing people's attitudes and wanting to shift that's driving this?
Great question. So I'll start by saying that one of the key challenges in compliance management is related to the fact that compliance standards vary across regions, right? So we've recently seen the introduction of DORA in the EU, right? Primarily addressed at financial services organizations, where they're asked to document, prove, and essentially make sure that they are protecting their data in the right way, right? You also have things ranging from GDPR, PCI DSS, HIPAA, all of these different requirements that also need to be applied across a variety of different workloads. And what we're seeing is that these things change every day, right? So it's hard sometimes for compliance teams to keep up with the evolving requirements, and more importantly, to be able to make sure that these changes are properly implemented across their infra, monitored and remediated in time, because compliance is not a point in time analysis. Compliance must be a continuously enforced practice, right? And we can talk a little bit more, and Adam's going to cover more about compliance, but essentially a thing that we've seen many times is this confusion about how compliance and security are the same thing, right? And a point in time audit readiness is not the same as making sure that your environment is ready to withstand the changes and complications when it needs to.
Yeah, when you think of compliance, sometimes maybe you might not think immediately of security, but certainly if you don't have compliance, you're open to tons of vulnerability, and certainly that's where the security plays in. What's your take, Adam?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I mean, in some ways, when we think about compliance, like you said, a lot of times we think about all these industry standards or regulatory standards, but really, if you think about it, its most basic, compliance just means, assuring that your environment is configured the way you want or need it to be, writ large. And in some cases, that means complying with regulations for sure. But each customer often has their own preferences or their own particular risk profile, given the way they're configured or given, what kind of, data they're handling or what kind of applications they have and whether they're exposed to the outside world or not and all of those things. And so, what we're looking here is with ACC is to deliver, the tools and automation to help you configure to get it right, the first time. You've likely got some professionals, or maybe it's the people that are listening here that know what they're doing and they know the right thing to do from a security and in that sense compliant perspective. But the challenge they have is making sure that that when their infrastructure gets deployed, that it's deployed the way they want and need it to be, and that it, to Belu's point about it being dynamic, that it stays the way it needs to be. That even as people are, troubleshooting problems or they're scaling up or whatever it is they're doing, that they're staying compliant with the standards they have, and they need tools that help them push out their policies and templates in ways that are compliant with their own standards. And then they also need to be able to monitor that, detect if things change unexpectedly, and even where they can, automatically remediate and close any of those changes that were unexpected and where somebody, left something open while they were troubleshooting and forgot to close it off or whatever.
Yeah, when you said, I think drift detection, I immediately think of like lifecycle manager, and so, but certainly, obviously, ACC is a little bit more advanced than just doing lifecycle management on patching hosts, right? I mean, there's a little bit more, a little bit more to compliance than making sure your hosts are up to date.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it still could be something as basic as, hey, there's a problem. Your admins need to open up SSH to do something, to either diagnose it or to fix something or do a workaround or do something temporary. And, when things get busy, maybe they forget to close off that SSH the way they should have. Or maybe, someone somewhere has, made a change to NTP or DNS settings or whatever, but they missed a couple of hosts. And so, I think these are really provide customers with, the framework and the capability to really make sure those things, don't happen, or if they do, that, that they get rectified quickly.
So this reminds me of kind of the desired state configuration model, this declarative
Right.
model that we've been talking about across the industry for a
Right.
while, and moving away from imperative. And so rather than just going and being like, well, I set it to be, I set it to whatever that setting was, a month ago, maybe it's still there. Having a system that's continually checking, okay, someone tried opening the firewall port, but I slapped their hand and I auto close it back type of activities. It looks like bringing that to your private cloud is kind of the goal here. How do we do that?
Yeah. So basically, it's pretty simple, right? When you set up templates or profiles or policies that, really we'll kind of use those terms interchangeably here. But, we'll set up a template that describes the way you need all the configurables to be configured for, your ESX hosts or or this could be done at things even inside the VM and at the workload level. But increasingly, we're putting in the capabilities to do this for the VCF components, infrastructure components themselves, starting with ESX hosts and vCenter servers, NSX manager, and so on. You can you'll be able to go in there for all the configurables that are configurable for those things you set. To use your term, you set what you need that to be, the desired state for each one of those settings, and then you can take that a profile or policy and then define which VCF components it applies to. It applies to these hosts, but not those other hosts. Maybe those other hosts have a different profile, for example. And those are used to either, if you're configuring new hosts, and to continue in that example, then it uses that profile to configure it right the first time. If it's a host that's been around for a while, you can still apply well, there's a couple things you can do. You can either just apply that template and it'll automatically set the settings to what's in your desired state template, or you could even, start from the beginning. You can, create the template itself based on what you already have installed. But anyway, so then you can push these out, and now once you've defined the policy and you've defined the kind of targets that need to be configured to that policy, then the ACC framework will automatically monitor between what's the reality of the settings on those hosts and comparing it to what the configuration policy is. And if there's difference, it'll note them. If it's something that can be auto-remediated, meaning just reverted to the setting that's in the profile without, for example, causing a disruption because
needing a host reboot, you'd have to put a
something.
host in maintenance mode, that kind of thing. So.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to, it's smart about that, right? It's not going to just all of a sudden, pull a reboot on a host unexpectedly. It's going to flag you and say, hey, this is something that's different than your policy, but a restart is required. So I'm not going to auto remediate, but you should as soon as you can. But in other cases, it will auto remediate if it's just a matter of, reverting the setting with no, disruption required.
All right. Well, so we've spent a lot of time talking about some of the things that ACC does, but we haven't really unboxed, if you will, what actually ACC is. Now, a couple of weeks ago, John and I actually had a really good conversation around Salt, for compliance, and great conversation. So if you're listening to this and you have not listened to the Salt episode, by all means, link in the podcast here, but also in the show notes. But tell us a little bit about what exactly ACC has in it. Like, what are the components that actually make up advanced cyber compliance? Like, what are these products that people may be familiar with or may not be familiar with?
Yeah, so essentially what we're trying to do with VMware Advanced Cyber Compliance is to create or bring together these use cases that have been historically fragmented and deliver them as a spectrum of value for our customers applied to the VCF platform, right? So what we released in November essentially includes what Adam was just talking about, right? So the automated monitoring and desired state remediation for VCF workloads. This is something that the critical importance of this, especially as it pertains to VMware Salt, which is the technology that's powering this capability in the background, is a sheer scale at which it can function, right? So a single Salt master can cover up to 35,000 endpoints. And also what we've seen is that our customers are being able to reduce the amount of manual tasks that they have to implement into their mostly massive environments, right? They reduce them to a third of what they previously were doing, right? So delivering this consolidated visibility, this ability to monitor and remediate at scale, and also kind of this trust in the VCF platform that stems from using our proven technology. So that's what we have on the compliance side. And then we understand that cyber risk management and compliance, come together, right? Which is why we have also included here cyber and disaster recovery to on-premises VCF environments, right? So this is something that has also become critical and into when it comes to compliance, right? Organizations are asked to document the way they protect their data. They're asked to recover their data in a minimum amount of time if there is any sort of business disruption. So this is becoming more of an imperative rather than an extra capability that that they need to have, right?
It's interesting that availability is getting tied into compliance, and I've seen some of that with the Europeans have been driving to where the availability and being able to prove availability, and so not the existence of DR, the Schrodinger DR, but the actual proof that it actually exists and can be tested on a regular basis is becoming a lot more imperative. So that's and VLR and having those capabilities and having that automated testing to have that testing report, so you don't have to get a bunch of people and fail over prod every time you want to show that you can do this is important.
I think one of the things that I wanted to mention here is that if you step back a little bit without getting too academic, a lot of customers are oriented to the NIST cybersecurity framework and a newer version 2.0 that's hot and cool at the same time. And but it has 5 of these big phases, right? Where things that you need to do to identify threats, protect, to detect, to respond and recover. And really, ACC is intended to be a comprehensive offering that kind of pulls together all aspects of that. I mean, the configuration and compliance aspects powered by Salt are really about setting that configuration up front to do your protection, to do the drift management and detect issues that you might have and respond to them. But then as you get over into detect, respond, recover, the disaster recovery, cyber recovery capabilities become very powerful. And when you think about things that we have and are increasingly coming, with integrations for that will allow us to better detect any breaches that get in there and then react to them and respond. This becomes a very powerful solution. And as you said, it's I think the term that really gets bandied about in the context kind of an HA is really resilience, right? Having an operational resilience. How fast can I detect that there's a problem, respond to it, clean things up, and then recover? How fast can we do that? That cycle has become really critically important. When you look at things that have happened recently, even just certainly in the last year, Marks and Spencer in the UK or Jaguar Land Rover, Asahi.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, Asahi beer in Japan, where they couldn't get their favorite beer in the convenience stores because they were sort of shut down. It's really important that when these things hit, again, how can I detect it before it goes too far? How can I respond quickly, recover, and restore my operational capabilities as quick as possible? And ACC is really designed to be a solution to provide some of that end-to-end components that you need to really support a lot of people's strategy that they have around having a plan that's compliant with the NIST cybersecurity framework.
So you can set up the compliance, you can automatically remediate if there is any drift, and then if there is any issues from a security perspective, that's when we get into the clean room capabilities and the ability to actually recover.
No, I was just going to make the comment that a lot of these ransomware attacks that are happening, studies show that 40 to 50% of these are happening based on the attacker having valid credentials that they've gained through social engineering or phishing or whatever. And So, if they've got valid credentials and they can get in there and they can do all kinds of stuff. So at that point, and it's not about any vulnerabilities in our product because it looks like a valid administrators, right? But at that point, what becomes really important is that we can detect malicious patterns of behavior from that account. Limit their privileges and how much they can do and access, and the ability to sort of move laterally. But then once we've detected that, again, help sequence them through and automate as much as possible the cleanup and recovery process. Belu mentioned earlier that right now, particularly on-prem, customers are really left to kind of have a mishmash of a lot of tools and kind of hand-built automation and playbooks they're having to kind of cobble together in the hopes that they can that it all works the way that they had planned. But this is a solution that's already VCF aware, VMs and servers and so on, and really allows you to have a tool that out of the box is extremely aware of your infrastructure and can really allow you to have very tight integration and really centralized control.
I like talking about breaking that kill chain because I know Pete's going to give his password to get phished very easily. I'm sure he fails in that phishing training. But
it's under my keyboard.
When I start to see him already peeing into things and moving laterally through my lab and pulling down questionable Russian Docker images, like having the tooling to detect all that and okay, let's lock this down. Just because the speed of these campaigns are moving up as they're using, they're literally AI slopping their way through the lateral movement inside your data center.
Right now there's some AI that's listening to Pete talk so they can imitate his voice and then call you up, John, and say, "Hey, John, I forgot my password. Can you hand it over to me, please?"
You joke, but that's a pretty real scenario right there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, even the video call is not safe anymore. In fact, we're not sure if this is Pete. This could just be, some Moldovan hacker who has compromised his account and is making the same corny jokes. So
exactly, not worthy of cloning. So yeah, ACC this is yet another advanced service. So if people are looking for more information on ACC, or if they're actually interested in actually getting ACC, how does that work for customers? Because I know it's not part of the core offering. This is one of those advanced services. So what do people need to do?
So people should reach out to their sales representative or partner of choice. ACC is an offering that is available to VCF customers exclusively. So a lot of goodness, right? And tying back to what you guys were just talking about, when it comes to kind of embracing this spectrum of use cases that is set by the NIST framework. They're not the focus of this podcast today, but there are a lot of other things that are part of our platform that are specifically designed to enable successful outcomes for all of these use cases that up until now have been treated as fragmented operations, right? So you have vDefend, right? One of the ways in which we detect malicious activity is by using IDS IPS to spot things such as data exfiltration attempts, right? As part of the core platform, we have a lot of things that precisely are designed to mitigate risks in terms of things such as stolen credentials, right? Role-based access control, MFA, principles of least privilege. So this is certainly in addition to, as we mentioned in the beginning, all of the robust security, compliance, resilience capabilities that are already built into our platform.
Well said, well said. And I will not share any corporate secrets, but I will say I did see some really exciting stuff that's coming very soon. No dates specifically, no versions mentioned, but I love to see the work that's happening behind the scenes. And I think you guys have a lot of exciting stuff coming. It's already great, but it looks like it's going to get even gretter. And yeah, I know we have product management on the call, so by all means, Adam, if you want to just share those secrets on a public podcast, go for it. No, I'm kidding.
Well, one thing I would say, anyone's listening here is probably pretty familiar with VMware and how we've gone from 8 to 9. And one of the very broad themes that we've delivered on really strongly moving from 8 to 9 is really integration of the components, across and between themselves, right? We've really delivered with 9 this true integrated single product, where with tight integration across all the aspects and components. And I think that process continues as we're going forward here. And you're looking at the components that are that make up the Advanced Cyber Compliance Suite. There's a lot of value you can deliver right now today, but we'll definitely, what you're alluding to is that as we get into some releases that are not too far away, we'll see even tighter integration. This is a great picture. We'll see even tighter integration between that orange box up there and the big blue and purple box in the center, right? We'll be able to do more and more and tighter integration, not only at protecting the workloads and things that are running inside the VMs, but also being able to manage and protect the VCF infrastructure components themselves. So we're kind of benefiting from our own protection capabilities increasingly as we move forward. I think we're going to see some really good stuff pretty soon here.
Yeah, and I'll add something to that, right? In terms of what this means for our customers, besides kind of the platform-based approach, avoiding having to manage multiple point products from different vendors, having to manually stitch them together. The value that we are bringing here is also enabling many of these teams which have historically worked in a siloed way, right? Usually security teams, compliance teams, infrastructure teams don't always talk to each other. So delivering the tools that will help them collaborate to continuously enforce the protection, compliance, risk management that their organizations need to be able to deliver all of these critical services products is something that we've kept in mind as we designed VMware Advanced Cyber Compliance.
I like it. Well said, Belu. Adam, thank you so much for joining us on Virtually Speaking and giving us all the information on ACC. Lots more to come on this series. Stay tuned, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, folks.